Okay, a few attendees are still signing in, so I will give it a minute. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the first public involvement meeting for the reconstruction project of Howard Avenue from South 6th Street to South Clement Avenue. My name is Megan O'Connor, and I work for the City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works, serving as the liaison for residents and businesses on this project. Before I introduce the panelists, I would like to go over how you can participate in tonight's meeting. If you are on a computer or tablet, you will see an orange arrow in the right-hand corner. This is your control panel, similar to what you see on the slide here. All attendees are currently muted, so during the presentation, you can type and submit your questions or comments in the question box on the panel. We will address these written comments and questions at the end of the presentation. And during our discussion segment, if you wish to speak, there is a raise your hand button to press. I will be notified and I will call on you to speak and we'll turn on your microphone. Lastly, this meeting will be recorded and posted on milwaukee.gov/DPW-Howard Avenue. On the project website, you can also sign up to receive project updates as well as submit your comments or questions personally to the project team. Our panelists from the City of Milwaukee include Nick Goodwin, the project engineer, the manager overseeing this, Stephen Owen, also an engineer, and Mike Amston, the manager of our multimodal transportation unit. I would also like to welcome the representative from Alderwoman Marina Dmitrievich Terry, as well as Alderman Scott Spiker. Thank you for joining us. And if you would like to say a few words, please feel free to do so before I hand it over to Nick.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Megan and team. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for turning out on a weeknight, taking some of your time out to come out and share your feedback. This is a really exciting project. So I work with DPW a lot. I'm always bugging them on behalf of my constituents for various improvements. An opportunity like this doesn't come along every day. We have, as will be explained, we have some state resources that we can go towards, put towards the rehabilitation of this road and a chance to reimagine what this road is and make it more of an asset to the surrounding neighborhoods instead of something that just cuts between it. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about the project, looking forward to hearing your feedback because this meeting is really for you. And if you have any questions or concerns, you're a constituent of mine, please feel free to reach out after the meeting and I'd be happy to follow up. And thank you again for everyone coming out.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman, and thank you, Megan. My name is Nick Goodwin. I'm the project manager for this project, and I'm going to be going over what this project is all about. As Megan said, it's the reconstruction of Howard Avenue from 6th Street to Clement Street. The project or the meeting agenda is going to be the project overview, the existing conditions, the project schedule, and then we're going to have a community conversation. So some information about this project. Howard between 6th and Clement is 1.3 miles long, and we are going to reconstruct it. This does not include the bridge over the interstate. The typical scope of work includes removing and replacing the existing pavement, curb and gutter, sidewalk, driveway approaches, and then there's utility work such as the drainage structures like inlets, street lights, traffic signals, and there is some landscaping work included, like trees, things like that. The goals of the project are to improve safety and comfort for people walking, biking, and driving, and reduce the motor vehicle speeds. And we are also considering complete street policy, enhance accommodations for people walking and biking along the corridor. The funding for the project. So this project is funded through state and federal aid. 80% of the project is. It's estimated that $9 to $9.5 million will be invested into this project, and that's between design and construction. A portion of the 20% will be assessed to the property owners for the sidewalk and driveway approaches in front of their property. So Howard Avenue in this project, in the project limits, 17 intersections. The posted speed is 30 miles per hour. The average daily traffic count, so east of Howell, so from Clement to Howell, it's around 12,500 vehicles, and from Howell to the west end of the project is 23,100 vehicles. And it's important to make that distinction because Howell West is on the National Highway System and Howell East is not. There's also in the area Tippecanoe Public Library, Bayview Montessori School, Community Garden, nearly 40 businesses, and active neighborhood associations. So here's a project location map and some things that we are considering as any historic or archaeological properties along the corridor, southeast side area plan, the cemetery that's over there. I also want to mention that if anyone has any information on any historic or archaeological resources, at the end of the meeting would be the time to tell us about it or in any comment form. And as I said before, Clement Avenue to Howell Avenue is a local road and a minor arterial moving around 12,500 vehicles. And from Howell to Fifth, it's an NHS and it's a principal arterial moving roughly 23,000 vehicles. So this is the existing typical section, what's out there all the way through the project limits. You have two 28-foot roadways separated by a 14-foot grass median. You have two driving lanes and a parking lane in each direction. And then you have the terrace area and the sidewalk. We are not presenting proposed alternatives at this time because we want to hear what the public wants to see and what works and what doesn't work before we start coming out with our designs. So the project schedule right now, we're in the first PIM and we're gathering all the information and public input. In early 2021, we will have another meeting where we will present design alternatives for the public to look at and comment on. 2022, we will work on the final design plans. And in 2023, we'll have our final meeting in late winter or early spring, and we'll present the final plans and we'll talk about construction staging and access details. And then from spring through winter, there will be construction. And then usually stuff like street lighting or landscaping carries over into 2024, the following year. So we are going to have a community conversation. Right now, we did get some comments in. Here's just a few of them. And we were accepting comments online on the website that I think Megan already mentioned. But the general consensus so far has been concerned with speeding, and some people have raised the issue of wanting bicycle accommodations, which right now there is not. So yeah, you can take a look at some of these comments. There were many more as well. And in this discussion, we want to talk about your safety concerns and issues. What problems do you see and experience while you're walking, while you're driving? What do you like about the street? What don't you like? Where is it difficult to cross the street? Do you see people biking along the street? If so, where? How important is street parking to you? Where is it utilized? The most along the corridor or not? So these are some things to think about. want to go further than that.
Yeah, let's stay on the discussion slide. Thanks, Nick. I think now is the time if you guys have questions or would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. I will see that. Oh, we have a couple people already. Give me 1 second and I will call on you. Let's open it. So Heidi, I see that you have your hand raised. I will unmute you so you can speak. Can you try turning on your microphone? Oh. Okay, we'll move to Michael. Michael, I'm gonna unmute you, okay?
Hey, there we go.
Hi,
Hi,
Michael.
I live on South First Street, about less than a block from Howard, and it's like a racetrack. NASCAR is what I call it.
Mhm.
I know Oklahoma Avenue, you guys have done some work recently, and you look at what they've done, you're thinking, oh dear Lord, but it really has tamed the road down a lot. So,
And what do you like on Howard Avenue that you think would work on?
you mean
or,
Oklahoma?
Yes, what do you
Um,
like on Oklahoma that would work on Howard?
Well, it's a different road. This has a median where Oklahoma doesn't. They put the two-way turn lanes, kind of making a fake median in the middle. But it
Mhm.
cranked it down to one lane and everybody gets in line and behaves for the most
Yeah.
part. It has a bike lane. Howard, oh dear Lord, if you tried riding a bike on it, you'd be dead. It's dangerous on a car. You get people undercutting you in the parking lanes, trying to go around you. Even if you're making a right turn, they still almost dive into you. It's just kind of crazy. So anything you guys can do to slow it down and bring some order to it would be appreciated.
Great, thank you. Okay, Kelly, I see that your hand is raised. I'm gonna try to unmute your microphone. There you
Hi,
go.
everyone. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey there. Yeah, so I'm Kelly Bolter. I'm actually the branch manager of the Tippecanoe Library. So thanks for giving us the shout out there. I just want to echo what Mike was saying about how fast the traffic is on Howard. I can give an example of this last spring and summer. We were working with the Election Commission to have early voting, or for the primary at Tippecanoe. And, we talked about having curbside voting on Howard Avenue, and DPW strongly advised against having that on Howard just because the traffic is it can be so dangerous over there. So I would echo what Mike said about, if there's anything we can do to safely accommodate bike traffic, or even, maybe more safety measures for pedestrians on that side, that would be really amazing and awesome.
Great, thank you. Caleb Anderson, I see that your hand is raised, so I'm gonna unmute your microphone. Can you try unmuting it? There you go. Hey, Caleb. We can't hear you. But your microphone is on. Until then.
You can always type into the chat box too.
Yeah, so until we hear from Caleb, we do have a couple of questions that came in. Has a parking or speed study been done yet? How many reports do you have on file with either Alderperson's office or MPD about reckless driving? And that is from Jake Newborn. So thank you for asking that question.
I don't know if we have a parking study yet. I know Mike is on the call too, Mike Amson, who's our multimodal manager. And at this point, I know that there's different amount of parking utilized throughout the segment. Mike, do you know if we have parking study yet?
I do not know. I think it's definitely worth reaching out to our parking management folks to see where they're at. They can do something like that pretty easily. And yeah, those are both things that the speed studies as well are things that we will be collecting the data on.
Another question that came through, or comment from Patrick Folker, 2 lanes are too narrow. Many cars pull up on the grass on 2 wheels, worried about getting hit. And Heidi said, we have met 4 times with the police and aldermen. I'm the principal at Bayview Montessori School. We have given a lot of feedback.
Okay.
Is that in regards to speeding, Heidi?
So I can say that there's different design, there's different things that we can consider in our design. One being bump outs at the corners of the intersection where the pedestrian ramps are. It actually bumps out and it makes the crossing distance shorter for the pedestrians, and it also makes it more difficult to speed around or pass around on the right. There's things that can be considered with the lower amount of traffic on the east end of the project, and if we want to change the number of lanes or lane types, there's different things that can be considered. But just like anything, if we, what was that? Just like anything, if we add a lane, like a bike lane, then something else is going to go. It's just something to keep in mind, whether that be parking or green space.
In terms of the complaints at the school, I don't know if Scott Reinbacher is still on the call, but those are all, issues that will be considered through this project. This project is, a pretty unique opportunity in that it is a major reconstruction project. So a lot of the potential solutions that may have been, costly as kind of a spot solution can be considered as part of the reconstruction work.
And Heidi, thank you so much for representing Bayview Montessori School at tonight's meeting. We have received comments already, and several have mentioned the intersection by the school. So we are aware that there are safety concerns. So thank you, and we will be working with you moving forward. James Dropic, I see that your hand is raised, so I'm going to unmute you if you would like to ask your question or say your comment. And you may have to hit your microphone to turn it on as well.
Okay, so I'm the guy who sent you some emails today, numerous ones. I sent them both to you. And so
Yeah.
I'm just I'll hit on a few of them so some of the people who are listening can hear what I'm talking about. First of all, the section of roadway from Howard Avenue east to St. Francis, that and the section of roadway Clement Avenue north to Saveland. I'm just very, very disappointed that those are not included in this project. And I mean, I beg you to somehow get them added to this project. You can go ahead and answer on that.
Yeah, so to speak on the part of Clement east to St. Francis, at the time of consideration, they took into account the pavement type, which is it's different east of Clement, as well as the age of the pavement. And federal funding was limited when this was started. But however, the city is considering treatments in conjunction with this project. So we are looking into maybe doing an overlay from Clement to the limit. So it is being looked at. It's just unfortunately not part of the full reconstruction due to the federal funding and also age of the pavement conditions.
Yes, and you're talking about the high impact paving.
Yes, similar to that, yes.
And are you anticipating maybe doing that part going north to Saveland, which is like, I mean, it's just totally just patched asphalt. I mean, that's all it is. I totally avoid that road. I mean, that's how bad it is.
Yeah, I will follow up with you directly on that portion of the roadway. I don't have information on the project schedule or of our capital improvements, if that's been considered or looked into. But I
And
will follow up with you on that.
I'm sorry. And what is the, I haven't, the high impact paving projects, it's a temporary fix in my opinion. And what is I feel that the lifespan that the city of Milwaukee puts on those projects is over exaggerated. And I feel like you might do that high impact paving and then walk away from that road that we're talking about and then forget about it for another 30 years as it crumbles. And you know what happens, the underneath part cracks through and works its way through within 5 years. What's the life, in my opinion, maybe 10 years. I don't know, maybe I'm overshooting it. What do you guys put on the life expectancy of those HIP projects?
Well, if an engineer knows, I'll let them answer, but for some reason, 10 to 15 years is coming to mind for me on our high impact projects.
And I don't know if that's a little too long or not, but I can tell you that I drive a lot of roads in this city because I get around my job. It's out in the field, and I mean, I could tell you which ones all get done. KK Avenue, Grange Avenue from Hall. I can tell you all of them, and I just think that sometimes they go way too long.
Well, unfortunately, the high impact process that we're talking about is not part of this project, and there are funding limitations, and there are a lot of miles of road in the city. But the good thing is that we do have the funding to fix Howard Avenue within the project limits, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay, well, I'm begging you to please do the best you can to maybe do some, at least I guess the minimum, I guess that we're going to get high impact paving, I hope. I had got an email from someone earlier about a month or two ago, Marina, the alderwoman. I had written her, and she had gotten some other people who were asking about that same issue. So I'm just, best I can to bring it to your attention. So I'll stop pounding that one. And I would like to talk, I'm a pet peeve on when they spend $9 million for a brand new concrete pavement road. And I drive down that road and it's washboardy. There's water pocket bird baths in the curb line, like Howell Avenue from Layton Avenue to Howard is an example of Lalonde. And I'm not a contractor or anything. I do know my concrete because I've done work in past. They totally do unacceptable roadways. I think that the city needs to, when they inspect these, they need to inspect them and stop them from doing shoddy work. And one of my big pet peeves, and you can look at the two AT&T covers, the 3-footers that are in the intersection of Howell and Howard Avenue and Howell. They're there right now. They're literally about 1.5 inches low, and they've been there. They did not sink because of the winter. They've been that way from day one. It bugged me so much and bothered me so much that I went out there with a camera, with a 2x4, with a level, and had a tape measure on that, and took it to Mr. Shamir, if I'm pronouncing his name right, the head guy, your head man down. I walked it right down to the 8th floor when he didn't have the job he's got now. And I brought it to his attention, and he just told me he's not going to fix it. So why don't we do it right in the first place? We're constructing a pothole on a $9 million project. I see it all over the city. I drive around this city, and it's first of all, some of these frames need to be replaced, brand new, because sometimes the covers also are sunken in the frame. So they're down low 1/2 inch. They put the cover on, it's 1/2 inch in the frame. And then a lot of them, and Lalonde is known for it, I'm telling you, I see Lalonde's work. They actually are finishing the frame very low. I don't think that's right. Do you guys think that's right to have that kind of workmanship?
So of course we want the best quality work out there on our city projects. This is a federal funded project. So this project's in conjunction with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, who handles the contracts. So the bidding and the contract selection is through the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. So we do not have a say on who the contractor is. So if Lalonde, for example, was the lowest bidder, that may be accepted and That is through the Wisconsin Department of Transportation.
But we do the inspection. City of Milwaukee does the inspection, right?
Correct.
We do have inspectors or consultants out there inspecting it, yes.
So isn't there some kind of you can only have so much dip in the road and stuff like that? I mean, their roads they're washboard, trust me, and you know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. You've been around. And their manholes are set low all the time. Not all of them. Take that back. That's not the right statement, but numerous times I find low manholes, and that's terrible to have a pothole, manufactured pothole after you spend $9 million. You have to admit that to me, please.
Well, I can follow up with you again in regards to like our quality control and guarantee post-construction. So if there are issues, so I will follow up with you directly so we can just hear from other people about Howard Avenue and their concerns. But I do appreciate you reaching out to us. So Tom Mailman, it's more of a comment. A walk along Howard Avenue in front of the cemetery always feels extra dangerous to me. There are 2 driving lanes, maybe 3/4 of a parking lane, and the grass area is maybe 3 feet. Makes it feel as if you are walking right next to 40 miles per hour traffic, especially with the lack of trees. Caleb, I see that your hand is raised again. I'm gonna try to unmute your microphone and then wait a second. If you aren't turned on, you can try yourself. Let's see. Okay, I just sent you.
Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Sweet. I had to switch my mic over. Awesome. So I did put it in the chat box, but basically my spouse and I bike along Howard quite often, and we would both very much enjoy a bike lane. And I know on East Bay, when they redid that, I don't know, whenever they redid it, they did a raised bike lane and parking lane. And I was just wondering if that's an option that can be explored for Howard. And that's it.
As far as a raised lane, I would say that's extremely unlikely, if I'm being honest. As far as bicycle accommodations, that is being considered for sure. And what that will look like, I don't know yet, but could be striped lane. And, we'd have to look at what the total roadway configuration would look like. But having a raised lane is something that isn't really, that was a different type of project. That was a specific bicycle project, the Bayview Downtown Bikeway project. And that is not likely to be considered for Howard Avenue.
Cool. I just realized you couldn't see me nod while you were talking because my camera's not on, but thank you.
I would just to add to that, the state of bike lane design has advanced quite a bit over the years. So some sort of protected bike lane, it may not look exactly like Bay Street, but some sort of protected bike lane could be considered out here. There's obviously trade-offs that would have to be made, but those are the types of comments we want to hear to help us develop the design alternatives. So definitely we'd be wanting to look at kind of a higher quality, all ages and abilities type of bikeway.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of protected lane, anything that can be done to do a protected lane. So thank you.
Thank you. Jake Newman wrote in, traffic light configuration at Whitnall was allegedly updated to allow for longer ped crossing time. Was it changed, and how has that impacted any traffic issues? If Scott is still on the line.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me, Megan?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Jake, we did go ahead and increase time for pedestrians crossing Howard Avenue out there. I think that was last spring sometime. I'm not aware of any kind of before and after studies. As far as I know, I have not heard of any reported issues. I really haven't heard of any feedback, neither positive nor negative out there. But if the school or you have any information, of course, we'd like to hear from you if that's working okay.
Heidi or Jake, would you like to speak on the ped crossing times at that intersection? I can unmute your microphone if you can just raise your hand. Oh, sure. So Jake, I will unmute you first.
Check.
Yep.
Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I wasn't sure if there had been any kind of follow-up to that issue. So, but thank you for that. I guess I have. You've already read a couple of my other questions, Megan. Thank you. And it sounds like other people I think are saying a lot of the things I was going to say anyway as well. So that's good to hear that the community, I think, is all kind of in the same mindset that it's a dangerous street. It has been for years. It makes people not want to use it. I think that this question on here in the discussion about do you see people biking along the street is kind of like misleading. I mean, you'd be crazy to bike on that street right now, especially if you're a child going to that school. So we shouldn't base our designs and process on if you see people there now. It should be on do we want people to do that in the future and make it accommodating for them. I also have it's concerning to hear Mr. Goodwin say kind of poo-poo every bicycle accommodation question so far. It's been twice where it's been a either you give up something else, you're going to give up green space and trees to have bikes there, and then how unlikely it would be to get a raised lane. That's just concerning from a constituent in this area and a child who has attended that school when we're trying to be listening to the community. And I feel like this is an area for open ideas, and they're kind of being shut down before the meeting's even over. So I'd appreciate if we can just keep an open mind and to all the input there, and not try and sway people away from wanting these safety measures.
Thank you so much, Jake. Heidi.
I'd like to respond to that. I can appreciate that, and I just want to make everyone aware that, and I'm not poo-pooing bike accommodations. And I said that's an option that we can consider, especially for slowing down traffic and things like that. And I just want to be realistic. It's my job as an engineer to be realistic on what's feasible. And we don't go around putting raised lanes everywhere. So I wanted to make that kind of clear up front that no, we're not, that's not likely going to happen. And I want to make everybody aware of the things that we can and cannot do. And bike lanes are something, or bike accommodations are something we can do. So we're here not giving design alternatives. We're here just taking input at this time. But thank you for your comment.
But I do like Jake's comment. We can rephrase that question moving forward. So thank you. We do want to ask questions of what you want to see out there as well as observe what's currently happening. So thank you, Jake. Heidi,
I'd also just like to say to that question, though, that the question that Jake, you kind of hit on what we're trying to get at. That question by no means is trying to say that we're not providing bike accommodations because nobody's biking there. It's asking, what are you seeing out there? Are you seeing people riding on the sidewalks? Are you seeing people riding in the wrong direction, perhaps, or crossing at unique locations that maybe indicates to us that we need to provide a higher level accommodation than just a standard bike lane or no accommodation. So that's what that question is getting at.
Okay, I am going to unmute Heidi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. One of the things that we were thinking about is, can you make maybe the boulevard smaller and then cut in like on our sidewalk because our cars, you know, our parents and our buses are there. So if you cut in enough, there would be a place for the buses to be without being in a lane. And somehow have that so that so nobody can turn right in that protected lane, because, you know, no matter who is there helping cross, they've gotten almost hit. It's just so dangerous, and I don't think I need to go into that. As far as responding to the question about, and thank you very much for changing the light time with the walk time. My feedback, from the feedback that I've gotten from parents, is that it has helped a lot. So I really appreciate that, because that was one thing we could handle, have done right away. But there's something that I always say is that, you know, it's a posted 30 miles an hour right by the library, when, you know, and then they have to slow down because it's a school. So I always question, why isn't it 25 miles there? And then we're always looking for more signage to have people slow down. Whether it works or not, you know, I don't know, but it's something's got to happen with our school. And, you know, we can't help being there. So, but thank you very much.
Yeah, so you are referring to kind of like a dedicated parking lane where you can like parents can pull in, buses can pull in to drop off right onto Howard in front of your school with like a curb bump out, so you couldn't just turn directly right at that intersection, correct?
Right, because it does sort of go, it does go in now, but there's so much of a very large sidewalk in front of our school that even if you cut in more, I think that would really help a lot, as long as it's only used for, you know, somehow dedicated so that it's only used for cars pulling in for the school, and that people aren't, you know, during the day somehow. And I don't know how you would regulate that, but you know, obviously it's a tricky area.
Okay.
And good evening, Principal Heidi. This is Scott Reinbacher again. I guess first I wanted to say that, of course, you and I and our team have been in discussion about issues at the Montessori school there for quite some time. So I'll be sure to relay all of our ongoing discussions to the major projects team here that are, you know, going to be administering this project. Just to kind of jump in, we should have a no turn on red sign there to prohibit, or actually, I forget exactly what the regulation, it might be no turn on red.
We have that, but nobody really pays attention to it, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that that's still out there and there's no issues with a malfunction or anything. So, and that's one thing, of course, we're trying to do to minimize conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians out there. I guess I would say that this project, I would imagine the project team will certainly be looking into the installation of bump outs out here. Potentially to, you know, to further reduce the crossing distance that pedestrians are exposed out there. So I guess as the design progresses and the various alternatives are investigated, I would imagine the project team is highly going to be considering bump outs and potentially the, you know, a way to create a dive in for the buses for unloading out there.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I know that we've worked together before, and I appreciate your meeting with us.
Scott, if you can stay available, the next comment we received from Tom Mailman, could a pedestrian scramble work, I think walk, at Whitnall and Howard? The pedestrians would have a full light cycle, 30 seconds to 1 minute, whatever, to cross with no traffic moving in any direction. If we need further clarification, I could turn on Tom's microphone if he can raise his hand if you would like to explain further, or if Scott, you can answer that question.
Sure. So pedestrian scrambles, obviously we get a lot of requests for those. I guess the biggest issue that we see with those is that they're often only really successful at extremely high volume intersections, such as like the downtown area where there's a lot of pedestrians crossing, and also at intersections with smaller footprints out here. So, you know, although in theory it sounds good to kind of just open up the intersection to PEDs only and display a red for every direction out there, you know, you're kind of creating other issues out there too, just because you know, traffic congestion, you know, the cars, they do need a certain amount of green time every cycle. Otherwise, there's just going to be, you know, gridlock with vehicles not being able to move. And then also the other, I guess the kind of the con of a pedestrian scramble also is that when it's not open for pedestrians to cross, you'll see the greens out there for vehicles, but then there will be a don't walk for pedestrians. So a lot of times you just wouldn't get compliance from pedestrians either. So although it's certainly an option, and you know, we get a lot of requests for these, I guess we're not sure that it would really provide too much of a benefit to doing one.
Thank you. Jacob Smith asked, if a bike lane does go in, will properties lose sections of their front yard? And I think this kind of goes into what Nick was trying to explain earlier, that as we look into alternatives and options, you know, there may be trade-offs, but Nick, if you want to address how that works with like the curbside terrace or the right-of-way, I guess.
So there's different trade-offs that can come. You can convert, say, a driving lane, if we're looking at the east end of the project where there's not as much traffic, convert a driving lane to bicycle accommodations, or take away parking and change things around that way. You can take away from the terrace next to the sidewalk, or from the median, but it's not likely that we're going to be, or it's pretty much not feasible that we're going to go into people's yards to make this happen. And what we are going to do is gather this information today and come up with some alternatives that we will present next time, so you can so everyone can kind of see, oh, well, this is what it would look like, or if we want to provide bike accommodations, these are some different ways we can do it. But we're not going to be acquiring property in people's yards to do this project.
Thank you. Patrick Folker said, are there certain types of pavement that can reduce noise? Traffic noise can be heard while sitting in our backyard pretty noticeably.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. He also comments that he does see many people choosing to ride bikes on the sidewalk. So thank you for letting us know that. Caleb just also wanted to mention that he sees people cross Howard at South 2nd Street fairly often. Caleb, if you can let us know, like, is that is it dangerous, not safe crossing at that intersection? Like, what is your experience there? Oh, I see that your hand is raised, so I will unmute you. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it's not incredibly safe. Just general traffic, plus the highway is right there. And I just brought it up because people were mentioning, like, if there's any sort of unique crossing traffic that people are seeing. So basically, yeah, traffic coming in off the highway tends to be going pretty fast, especially people are trying to make the green way down on Howell, and also people turning off of 2nd to turn onto Howard, especially if they're going northbound on 2nd, taking a left to get to the highway. They tend to just kind of gun it and go. So just, I mean, it's not like a constant flow of pedestrian traffic, but it does happen, I think, regularly enough where if there's some kind of crosswalk or I don't anything that could be done just to sort of raise awareness for the drivers that there's pedestrians in the area. And then another issue is that the cars cut from Howard down Second, and then they go down to First, and then they take that down. They basically use Second, or they use Tripoli and then Second to sort of cut off Second, Tripoli, and First to cut off the Howell-Howard intersection. And I have no idea what the, I guess, solution on that would be from building a new road standpoint, but I've seen a couple of kids in our neighborhood kind of have to dodge because these cars just they just go. So
something to do with the bikes. So like, I guess I was writing that, sorry, I'm Caleb's spouse, I'm here. But I was basically trying to say that that when they turn from Second onto Howard, they're doing that to cut the intersection, but they're also taking up space in that median where people are trying to use as a kind of an island to cross. So it's not an intentional crossing point, like there's no crosswalk there, but people try to cross with their bikes a lot to go from neighborhood to neighborhood. So,
Okay. Thank you. So we will definitely look into that. Michael mentioned that bump outs do protect parked cars and reduce typical traffic problems. These are helpful on Clement north of Howard. So thank you. To mention the intersection of Clement, we did receive a couple of comments that Clement and Howard, there's a lot of speeding, especially in the right turn lane. People use the right turn lane to continue going east onto Howard. If you guys have any commentary on that, that would be also helpful to just add to the feedback we received. But I know we've already got comments on people using the right turn lane to pass, to continue east. Terry Thompson, with the street open up, would I have an opportunity to have my lateral line redone? That is a great question. I can follow up with everyone here attending this meeting. We will have to talk to Milwaukee Waterworks, and we'll get back to you. I do not have an answer at this time. And those are all our comments so far. If anyone has any other questions, or we can go through some of these other questions, Nick, or if you want to read some comments just to spark more conversation.
Megan?
Yes.
This is Alderman Spiker. I just had a question. I wondered if there were any residents here who park on Howard. I see people do it. I can see how you can park it. I'm not sure how you can open your door and get out, given how close traffic is. But some of the discussions were about, if you have bike lanes, then the road's only so wide. So naturally, if you had a protected bike lane or something against the curb, that would eliminate parking there. So I'm just curious if there's anybody here who actually parks on Howard besides, by the school for drop off.
Great question. I will leave some time open in case people want to raise their hands or submit their questions or their answers to that question. Oh, Michael, I will unmute you.
All right. While I don't live on Howard and don't park on Howard, I drive it a lot. And if there's a car parked on the side of the road, even if they're tucked in tight to the curb, if you're in that right lane, it is like threading a needle. Not tear a mirror off or get your mirror ripped off. It's a little narrow.
So you wouldn't park on Howard because of how narrow it is?
Yeah, this is from Howell to Clement. It's pretty tight.
And thank you. And we got a comment from Patrick Fulker that he lives on Howard and does not park in front of his own house. He'll park on the side street. And Tom Mailman said, even parking on Howard in front of the Bayview Montessori School, I'm guessing that's what he means by BVM, is like putting your life in your hands during rush hour pre-COVID. And just other comments that are coming in. Alex says he lives on Howard and there are constantly cars flying by between Pine and Clement. Is a roundabout a possibility on Pine to potentially slow cars down and still keep traffic moving at that intersection?
Scott, do you want to take that?
I would say that I guess it's certainly something that we can take a look at through the design process here. The big thing with the roundabouts is we need to make sure that there's enough right-of-way available. I know Howard Avenue, we've got 100 feet available to play with. I'm not sure what the right-of-way on Pine is and if it's feasible out there, but I say that I would imagine that's something we can certainly take a look at through the design process. And of course, I guess one other thing to touch base on is, and I don't know if Nick, you wanted to jump in on that, is this is, given that this is a WISDOT project and we are receiving federal aid on the project, roundabouts, that is something that would need to get authorized by them essentially if we were going to change from traffic signalization to a roundabout. So no matter what we as a group, recommend, sometimes, we need concurrence from the state in order to build it.
Thank you.
That's a great point, Scott. Something that I wanted to, when I talked about earlier about saying what is feasible and what is not, there are certain design criteria and stipulations that we do have to meet with these projects, which is why I was trying to say what is feasible and what is not, but we are considering everything that we are hearing today.
And I think that just to touch on that, additionally, Nick, your comment right away about the NHS designation, what is it, west of Howell?
Yes.
Even just the entire limits we're talking about from 6th to Clement here, we have different criteria we'll have to look at on either side of Howell, just knowing that the NHS criteria or the NHS designation comes with its own set of criteria.
With speeding, Patrick mentioned that he thinks a lot of the speeding is to try and make the next green light. Is there anything that can be done to deter that? I think that would be best answered by Scott, if you want to talk about traffic signal timing and the flow of traffic.
Sure. Well, I guess that is definitely a good point. My group here, we're responsible for the operation and maintenance and signal timing in the city. Generally what we do, and we will also do with this project, is we'll collect existing traffic data out here and we'll essentially optimize the traffic signal timing based on volumes, turning movements, things like that. And we'll also optimize the relationships between the traffic signals out there to sort of control traffic flow that way. So we will, as part of this project, we will likely have signal timing improvements out here based on existing traffic data. Good signal timing and progression that can reduce some of those try to beat the light type situations. But, unfortunately, there's always going to be, kind of that situation where someone can try to gun it there if they see the pedestrian countdown timers are slowly counting down to the end. So I think the signal timing, there's certainly improvements that could try to reduce that red light running, but we're never going to completely be able to solve that on our end.
Okay, great. Thank you. Terry Thompson wants to know how the special assessment works. And Terry, I can answer that. So when we are ready for the final plans and estimate, when that's done, the Department of Public Works will schedule the project for the Public Works Committee, and the estimated special assessment and official notice for the meeting will be sent to each property owner. This is always about like 2 weeks before that meeting with the Common Council Committee. So the property owners and aldermen will have the opportunity to voice any objections to the project. And then you'll get a bill 2 years after construction is completed. So property owners can pay it in full within 45 days after they receive the bill, or they can spread it out over the next 10 years with interest. We do not have assessment rates for the upcoming years set in place, but just to give you an example of what a construction cost would be, or assessment cost would look like. For a federal state-funded project such as this, a driveway approach charge would look like $1.30 per square foot. And yeah, super cheap. So a city project is roughly around $6.50 per square foot. So because the city's only paying 20%, the assessment relatively would be $1.30 per square foot for a driveway. And then for a sidewalk slab on a federal state-funded project, we're looking at 70 cents per square foot. If this was a city-funded project alone, it would be about $3.40. And this is our 2020 assessment rate. Again, this can change for the upcoming projects in the few years away, but just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. And an interest rate for the 2021 right now is $4.25. So those are some of the details, but you will, as a property owner, will be given that information towards the end of our design phase before it gets approved by the Public Works Committee. So I hope that explained that well. James, I see that your hand is raised.
Just on, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just on that assessment, is some of the money, I thought some of the money from our registration for our vehicles get used for roadway projects.
They do, but it doesn't work exactly like that. So that pot of money will go to eventually get to the DOT, and then they can distribute the money how they see fit for these projects. So assessments are completely different.
Oh, so, I mean, but the money I give in the city of Milwaukee, does it stay in the city of Milwaukee for our roadways then from the DOT?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming here, I assume that that's how that worked. I guess we need a little education on that, but I just was asking just to learn. The other thing is why I got you on here is, I guess I can even say on behalf of everyone on this webinar, thank you for doing this. Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And I can follow up with you again on the registration fee and how that works, because I'm not sure. So I'm actually interested in knowing that as well. Kelly
Megan?
Butler says that.
Megan?
Yeah.
Just on that, a little bit about the wheel tax thing.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Alderman.
Sure. So this is Alderman Scott Spiker. So this is just based on past conversations. We asked the budget office about this. So I don't know if folks remember, but the wheel tax, the city's portion of the wheel tax came in 2008. And if memory serves, what was happening is you used to be charged for the road in front of your house. You got assessed when they redid your road, and you'd get assessed for curb and gutter. And so people would vote on it. Hey, do you want to get your road redone? Here's your bill. And the bill was so high, people were turning them down. So the wheel tax, and this was way before my time, but my understanding was part of the rationale was to put money towards that so citizens wouldn't be paying for the road to be redone per se. They'd just be responsible for the driveway approaches and the sidewalk slabs. They'd be assessed for that. I did ask the budget office a couple of years back, hey, this $20 wheel tax, is there a bunch of money left over from what citizens kick in for that compared to how much we spend on streets? And the answer was a resounding no. We spend way more on streets than we collect in terms of the wheel tax. And I know the mayor's budget this year is proposing upping it $10 more. But we still aren't reaching parity there. There's a lot more need for repair of the roads and a lot more money we spend on it than the city at least collects in wheel taxes, is what I've been told by the budget office. So thanks.
Thank you. Kelly at the Tippecanoe Library mentioned regarding parking, that's exactly why DPW refused to accommodate curbside voting on that side of the libraries. It's just not safe for people to park and for the election commission staff to have administered curbside voting services. We accommodated this on Van Beck, which worked well, but having more safety measures on the Howard side for parking and biking would greatly benefit our community. Thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to our feedback and experiences. This session is very informative. Heidi asked if we could put in speed humps to slow drivers down after the library going east with another one near the school to get drivers to slow down.
Scott, do you want to take this or do you want me to talk about it?
Sure, yeah. Chime in, or Mike can. I guess Mike's group is technically in charge of the city's traffic calming program.
Sure, I can take it, Scott.
Sure.
I would say speed humps are pretty they're commonly found throughout the city, but they're most appropriate for kind of quieter residential streets where you don't have very high volumes of traffic or you don't have truck traffic or heavier vehicle volumes or heavier vehicles. But so speed humps probably wouldn't be appropriate, but there are a lot of other things we can do to slow down traffic. Curb extensions have been mentioned. Removing a lane perhaps and narrowing up the street can be considered. So, we'll definitely take a look at how we can best slow down speeds in a way that's appropriate for a street like Howard Avenue.
Thank you. Patrick asked if this project would include updated streetlights and signals or just pavement improvements. It would include utility upgrades such as streetlights and signals.
Correct.
James, your hand is raised. I don't know if you have a follow-up question.
No, I don't even know how that got over there.
Okay. Okay, I've covered all the comments and questions so far. Terry from Alderwoman's office said Scott Stearns lives just off Howard, but most likely doesn't park on Howard. Thank you. So with parking, it sounds like a lot of people avoid parking on Howard. Like, what is your priority of parking on Howard? Like, would you want to have parking on Howard, or is it underutilized so you're okay with parking on side streets? I would be interested in knowing people's opinions on that. Heidi, your hand is ready. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we try to discourage parents from parking on the street, and because there's so many people that get their mirrors torn off. But yeah, it would be really important to have some kind of parking, because I think it just puts such a burden, I would imagine, like on other, like Van Beck. And so all of those side streets are having so many people park on them. But it would be, for convenience, really nice to have some type of parking if it were safe.
Okay, thank you. Patrick said he's not okay on parking on side streets. Having to ask guests to park far away is not ideal. I hear ya. Scott Stearns, I live north of Howard on Austin and would note that we see people parking on a street more often due to the danger of parking on Howard. Also to echo Heidi, I personally have had my mirror ripped off by passing truck while parked in front of the school in the past. Caleb says we don't want to park on Howard, only park on side streets. We have people near us who park in no parking zones near the interstate between 2nd and 3rd on the north side of the street, causing issues with the turn lane. And Tom said he'll second Heidi's comments. Parking at the school without fear of losing your mirror would be great. At school events, crossing Howard outside of crossing guards, At school events, crossing Howard outside of crossing guard times is dangerous. Okay.
One thing that can be considered is removing parking on one side. That is something that can be considered. Maybe giving a little more room to parking on the other.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Okay, those are the comments received so far.
Can I ask a question, Megan?
Yep.
So this is Alderman Spiker again. I guess this is a question for Mike Amsden. So I know over on Layton, if you would have told me we were going to put bike lanes in there, a few years ago, I would have said that's crazy. Nobody will ever bike on Layton. But the city did put in bike lanes there, protected ones, not raised, but still against the curb. And I have seen people biking down there. But more to the point, I know a few folks here were involved with the reckless driving task force thing. And you've probably known this for years, the narrower the road looks, even visually, even with just paint, the more it tends to slow down traffic is what I've been told. So if you do clear out parking spots, but cars aren't in there, it's might look wider than if you had, bike lanes on both sides that would visually narrow the road and perhaps slow it down. So just wondering if you could kind of fact check me, Mike, on any of that stuff.
No, I think you are becoming an expert in street design. You're absolutely right. One of my favorite quotes is, "We don't build bridges where people are swimming across a river." And what that's basically saying for bike lanes is we don't build bike lanes where people are biking. We build bike lanes where we want people to bike, or people want to bike, but they don't feel safe doing so. So that's where these more comfortable, all ages and abilities type bikeways are really important, because they can attract people to streets that, we just can't imagine people riding on today. So adding those bike lanes are important, and you're right, narrowing streets either visually or physically does slow down traffic. And I think one of the issues we see on Howard today is, in theory it is tight. It's an 8-foot parking lane and 2 10-foot travel lanes, but in reality, oftentimes there's nobody parked on the street, and many times you're driving without anyone next to you, so you have 28 feet of space to yourself many times, and that's a really wide stretch, so people can get up to pretty high speed. So yeah, narrowing it up is a good way to slow speeds.
And Caleb said, just to back Alderman Spiker's point, he feels much safer biking on Layton now that the biking lane is there. So he agrees with all your points. Great.
I can read a few comments that we've received in the mail too.
Okay.
Let's see here. This is a long one from Susan. She kind of just says what she wants to happen. So I'll just read it. Reduce the number of available driving lanes east of Howell Avenue so that there is one parking lane, one bike lane, and one driving from Howell to Clement. The right turn only lane from East Howard Avenue to South Clement is frequently used as a straight through lane, enabling impatient or aggressive or inattentive drivers to get past the cars continuing straight on Howard. Can the road be engineered so that drivers in the right turn only lane have no option but to turn right? Any engineering strategy to limit/control the speed of cars on Howard would be appreciated. Cars frequently exceed the speed limit by 10 to 20 miles per hour. It is a residential street. Any engineering strategies to encourage/mandate cars turning right off of East Howard on to South Whitnall to come to a complete stop before turning would be appreciated. Frequently, drivers do not even slow down before turning. And then she says, do not change the left turn only lanes from East Howard Avenue onto North Austin, North Griffin, North Pine, North Clement, South and Whitnall, South and North Howell. Do not remove or decrease the width of the boulevard strip between East and West Lane of Howard Avenue. So that was a lot.
Okay.
And she touched on several points that we talked about. As far as the comment on Clement Avenue, the right turn only being used as a through lane. Scott, I don't know if you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, sure. I imagine that will be cleaned up with this project. If the roadway, of course, is reduced from 2 lanes in each direction down to 1. So what you see out there right now going eastbound, there is a lane drop right there. So I imagine with this project, there are some alterations, whether it's through geometrics or just pavement markings, we could minimize that and clean that up with this project.
Yeah, and as far as the point about dropping a driving lane, we are going to be doing a traffic report with this project, and that will let us know the impacts of doing any of that and seeing how feasible it is, but we don't have that yet. It is being worked on. So that will kind of let us know what we can and cannot do. But like we said, there is less traffic on the end of the project.
So Jacob Smith chimed in here and said, would we consider implementing natural rain gardens for storm water drainage like Holt Avenue? And will the new construction or layout decrease semi trucks from traveling down Howard?
Well, Howard Avenue is an arterial street, so it is, especially Howell going west. So there won't likely be a decrease in truck traffic because it's on the NHS in that area and it's meant to move traffic. And what was the other, the rain garden?
Yeah, if we would look at considering natural rain gardens for storm water.
Sometimes we look at bioswales as a way to hold stormwater, and we haven't looked at that yet. We have to see what utilities are there and what is feasible. But before we can even look at that, we want to look at what the final layout and configuration will look like. So if there's, how much green space area do we have that we can actually implement something like that? So right now, we might do something like that, but we don't know yet.
Okay. Guess you just have to tune into our second meeting, Jacob. Heidi asked, what month will the construction begin? How will this impact busing if school's in session? With the let date, Nick, what roughly can you give an estimate when construction would start? April?
Early April is likely the earliest it would start, and that's all based on the weather. So
Okay.
it could end up being late April if it's a bad winter.
And Heidi, as the liaison, I will work directly with you on that coordination leading up prior to construction, so we could have a plan in place. Towards the end of the final design phase is when they determine how construction is going to be set up with traffic control. And so once we have that information, I will work with you. So we have all the information available and set in place for your parents. So there shouldn't be, it should be a smoother transition with our coordination. Things do change though with construction, so we just kind of have to work with it as well, but we will be in contact with you. Caleb, I see that your hand is raised, so I am going to unmute your microphone.
All right. So by far, I guess the biggest safety concern I have, and this applies to biking, walking, or driving, is that I think there's just seems to be a lot of sort of confusion from drivers on Howell, either going northbound or southbound, because there's 2 turn lanes each direction going from Howell to Howard. And I see people do a lot of cross turn lane sort of merging, where they basically, let's say they're in the leftmost lane going north on Howell, and then they, in the process of turning, they merge into what would be the north lane on Howard. And like, I've seen several car accidents because of that. I've seen, I don't know, it just seems kind of like it's confusing. And I don't know if this would be within like the purview of the entire project, or if it's something that wants to be explored. But honestly, if we could take that down to 1 turn lane going each way, that would, I think, probably increase the safety and lower the speeds quite a bit. Because I also see a lot of people just burning to try and make that yellow because there's 2 turn lanes, and if there's someone stopped at the yellow in one of them, people cut around them, and I've seen that cause accidents, and I've seen people almost get hit. So that by far is the most, I think, dangerous part that I've seen at that particular intersection.
Thank you. That's good observation and feedback. Is that intersection at Howell part of consideration for this project, that we could look at reducing turn lanes, or is that a requirement?
Well, I think things can be looked at, but there's also other things to keep in mind, is that's right where the NHS route is. And
Okay.
we are trying to safely move a lot of traffic in that area. Reducing the number of turning lanes could mean having 1 super long turning lane with a super long light to allow those vehicles to move through. So there's different trade-offs. Right. Scott Reinbacher.
Yeah, and, just to chime in here, everyone. So previously on the Howell Avenue paving from Howard down to Layton, I think that happened in 2015 or so. I guess due to the very high volume of vehicles there that are making the northbound left turn, probably likely to access Interstate 43, 94 there. As part of the traffic report that was generated for that project, I guess it was found that 2 left turn lanes were needed out there, just to be able to accommodate the turning vehicles. I guess to add to your point, there really aren't too many dual left turn lanes in the city, so perhaps drivers are, they're not really thinking about the other lane adjacent to them. I guess one thing we could do to try and minimize the potential for side swipes in there is to just make sure that the pavement markings are in decent shape. I guess off the top of my head, I don't know the condition of the markings out there, but perhaps they're starting to fade quite a bit. So our city crews can go out there and just take a look and see if the lane line out there is properly marked, just to make it clear to drivers that you need to navigate through the turn using that guide lane there.
Yeah, that would be a big help.
That would actually be a huge help. The markers are really faded if they're even still there. So I guess just sort of as a follow-up then, because of the way that that intersection is, and it seems like the 2 turn lanes off of Howell are necessary, then that definitely locks us into having 2 traffic lanes on each side of Howard for that, at least that section of the road, just for my own sort of head math.
Right. So then you wouldn't be able to go down to 1.
Right, so we wouldn't be able to go down for 1 for bike lanes or increased parking or anything like that.
Right.
So, all right, cool.
Be more
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, if there was the potential to reduce the number of through lanes west of Howell, then yeah, as part of this project, Nick, we would need to make some type of geometric improvements to the south leg of this intersection here.
It would, and to comment on that, it would be more difficult to reduce the number of lanes west of Howell just because of there's 20-some thousand vehicles and there's 10,000 less east of Howell.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that there will be 4 lanes in each direction west of Howell. It's just a matter of what cross section will ultimately be decided by the public and the project team here east of Howell.
Okay.
I guess the other thing I do want to note there is we do need to be very careful with not creating excessive traffic congestion at the off ramps to the interstate highways there. We do need to make sure that those intersections operate successfully, just because there could be some serious safety potentials. We can't create issues on the interstate with having traffic backing up excessively, which I'm sure many of you already know that the off ramps at the interstate can get awfully congested at times. So we just need to make sure we're especially careful at those intersections.
Yeah, totally agreed.
Absolutely agreed. All right, thank you.
Thank you. A lot to consider here. Before I go to Michael's question, I just want to read Patrick's comment. He's noticed that getting a left-hand arrow from westbound Howard to southbound Howell is a rare occurrence. So Nick, I don't know if you need to check, or sorry, not Nick, Scott, I don't know if you need to check on traffic signal timing with that comment, but just wanted to let you know that. And Michael, I am going to unmute your microphone.
First, I'll concur that if you're going west on Howard and you want to go south on Howell, yeah, it's like winning the lottery when you get a turn arrow. That's easy. The other part was for the 2 turning lanes going from North Howell to West Howard. I don't see a problem with them. What might help is increasing the red time a little bit between the turn lanes getting a red arrow and the southbound lanes getting a green light. Because like today, someone almost got me, because that gives the people running the red lights time to clear the red light prior to us moving forward. Because it's kind of a game of chicken. Do you go? Do you wait? Are they going to run it? You know, you're kind of taking your life in your hands sometimes.
Sure, and we can absolutely evaluate the signal timing there just to make sure that there's sufficient clearance provided to minimize those conflicts. And we'll also take a look and make sure that the left turn arrows are properly programmed. The way that most of our left turn arrows are programmed is they're programmed to operate when approximately 3 or more vehicles are waiting to make the left turn. So if there's only 1 or 2 vehicles there, then the arrows might not be displayed. I guess for Howell, the northbound leg here, those arrows, just because there's a dual left turn lane there, those will be displayed automatically if 1 vehicle is there. But for the westbound to southbound movement, we'll take a look at that and make sure that the detection's working properly.
And Caleb agrees with the signal timing evaluation as well. So thank you, Michael, for bringing that up, as well as Patrick. Nick, while more comments are coming through or if people have questions, can you move the slide to our contact information? just so people have it on their screen. So just so you guys are aware, we do have a project website. It is milwaukee.gov/DPW/Howard Avenue. And as I've mentioned, this presentation and recording will be posted on that website. You can find more details regarding this project. You can sign up to get project updates in your inbox, as well as sending us comments directly following this meeting. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. And if any of you guys are part of the Nextdoor app, DPW does have an account, and we will post information on Nextdoor as well. And if you have any questions, here's our contact information. Nick Goodwin, again, is the project manager, and I am the liaison, so feel free to reach out to either of us moving forward. Jake's comment just wants to thank the project team for listening to us tonight. He appreciates the time and looking forward to a safer street for our vulnerable users. Thank you, Jake. Lisa lives on Howard Avenue between Whitnall and Pine, across from the cemetery. The amount of speeding and cars drag racing each other is atrocious. We have been here 18+ years, and the speeding is getting worse by the year. What can be done? I'm actually going to ask Alderman Spiker this question as well, because speeding is an issue, and one of the comments we received was getting the MPD speed enforcement, mobile speed enforcement sign out there. How can we put a request in for that? And then we can go and address the actual speeding issues through design.
Sure. So a speed board request is something we put in with our police district, which is District 6. The area in question is outside of my territory. It's in Alderwoman Dimitrievich's, but in general, you can request it through the District 6 community liaison officers. And if I have Terry's on the line, I'm sure she'd be happy to pass along that request. I just want to be respectful of my colleagues. So
yeah, thank you. I just didn't know if that had to come through an common council request, or if residents could request it through MPD. So
yep, that's a good question. And residents can request it, of course, as with anything. If things are moving along a little slowly, it never hurts to reach out to your alderperson.
That is very true. Heidi said she's requested it and got one for a while, so that's good to know. The insurance company on Howard east of Clement mentioned the need for a speed enforcement board out there as well. So it seems like there's a couple areas along this project corridor that we need to address speeding. So besides the speed enforcement aspect, other things that we've mentioned previously were like curb bump outs, narrowing the driving lane that could help reduce, or elements that could help reduce speeding. Nick, if there's anything else that I haven't covered or we haven't covered.
Well, we probably wouldn't narrow the driving lane further than it already is, but.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, two lanes to one lane option.
Or just narrowing the road in general can reduce speed as well. But the bumps definitely help, because then you're not going to be using if there is still a parking lane. I'm not sure exactly what this is going to look like yet. We're going to look at many alternatives next time, but people aren't going to use that parking lane to pass on the right because then you have those bump outs there at the end of the block. Definitely do help.
Yeah. So Lisa says thank you. She'll follow up with her alderwoman and the police department on that. Michael, I see that your hand is raised. I don't know if that was previous hand raised that we have already addressed. Oh, looks like you took it off. Okay, just want to make sure I am covering everyone's requests here. Are there any other comments, Nick, that we received in paper format that may help?
Nothing that was really different than what we've already talked about.
Okay.
There's a few comments that people would like a bike lane.
Mm-hmm.
One comment that somebody wanted the center island removed and put in turn lanes throughout.
Okay.
Which is not likely, let's say. Somebody says there should be arrows for turns on the intersection of Howard and Whitnall, and there should be a bike lane on Howard Avenue.
So there's not currently arrows at that intersection of Whitnall and Howard right now with the turn lanes?
That I don't know, Scott.
Okay.
No, there are not.
Okay. Okay.
Just say something? I'm sorry, this is Heidi Punish.
Yes.
There is actually a turn signal, but it's only for if you're going north from Whitnall, turning left onto Howard. It's the only one.
Only one. Okay.
Thanks for clarifying that, Heidi. For the northbound direction, there are, but not for southbound, eastbound, or westbound. Sorry about that.
Correct.
I'm just getting a little rusty. And that's largely due to there's a much higher northbound volume out there than there is southbound.
Right.
But again, as we collect our traffic data and analyze this entire corridor, we'll certainly review every intersection for the installation of left turn arrows or not.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Holly said we would like a single lane with a nice bike lane. The current Howard Ave situation is very dangerous. We have people racing down the street all hours of the day, road rage and accidents. Our neighbors had a car go through their house.
Oh, wow.
We have a school across the street, Bayview Montessori.
Mhm.
Traffic is very dangerous for children. Comment as well. Rachel and Doug said, hi, sorry, cannot attend the meeting. It sounds great to us. East-West Howard between 6th and Clement. To reconstruct East-West Howard between 6th and Clement. We only ask when you do not have any work also going on Holt at the same time, or 6th Street. So we're able to get out of the neighborhood and go about our deliveries. Also, if you consider repaving South 5th Place to the north of Howard Avenue, as it has been horrible shape for years.
Just a few comments that come through. Lisa has said she can tell us that there have been a lot of accidents on the corner of Whitnall and Howard Avenue. It's very scary with the school being on that corner. And Scott said the traffic going from northbound Whitnall to westbound Howard creates a perilous, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, situation for pedestrians crossing in the crosswalk. Drivers are often neglectful of those crossing as they turn left onto Howard. Thank you for that observation and letting us know. Patrick said, might also want to take a look at the parking around Tenuto's to go. I need to stop there to get their food during their busy hours. Yeah, a lot of people are dodging traffic while picking up their order. And their parking lot is extremely small, so I can see that happening. What's the best thing to get there?
I've had pizza.
Okay. All right.
Megan?
Yes.
This is Alderman Spiker again. Somebody was asking about 5th Place north of Howard. Is that right? Or was I?
That was a comment that we received through the mail.
Oh, okay, so they're not on. Well, I had something from Chad Chrisbaum, our engineer in charge at Department of Public Works, and he said South Fifth Place between Howard to just north of West Warnemont, that they completed the design and they should be sending out a survey for owners for 2021 for that project. So they are planning to do something there and relatively soon. But that stretch is bad, so as a lot of stretches are. So just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Not related to road, Scott recommends the Diablo Pizza. So thank you. I will have to try that when I go and visit. Make sure you guys support your local businesses. Okay, that's it with our comments so far, and I don't see any hand raises. And I think, Nick, you've read through all the comments that you have received.
I know I
So-
received an email earlier today that was concerned with traffic at 3rd Street. They had said that people that come in off of Howard on the 3rd usually are doing so mistakenly because they think they're turning onto the ramp and then they dangerously back out onto Howard Avenue. And they wondered what we could do about that. They recommended to not allow traffic to go into 3rd Street, is what their comments said.
Okay,
So we can take a look at what's going on over there.
yeah. Caleb says, shout out to the library, they're awesome. So Kelly, if you're still on the line, people love Tippecanoe Library.
Sorry to interrupt again, Megan, but I just wanted folks to know the Lark Uniforms store, which is on the east side of Howell, just north of Howard. That's in Alderwoman Dmitrievich's district. But La Casa had bought that building, I thought, and we're going to do a daycare. This was all right before COVID hit. So just wanted to bring to DPW's attention that if a daycare does go in there, there's your neighborhood friendly library over on Tippecanoe, that crossing of Howard on the east side of Howell might become a lot more popular.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Thank you.
Mhm.
And Kelly from the library says, thank you, everyone. We love this community. So we are about 20 minutes away from the end of this meeting. Oh, Heidi says, thank you all. Our Montessori school families are excited to see the changes on Howard. She looks forward to keeping in touch with us on this project. Thank you, Heidi. We look forward to working with you as well. So we're about 20 minutes away from this project, or from this meeting ending. So I just wanted to thank everyone who has attended. We really appreciate your time this evening. We appreciate your comments and feedback. And we do look forward to working with all of you. We want to make sure that this project fits the community for years to come.
Well said.
I'm going to have to take off. This is Alderman Spiker, but I just wanted to thank everybody for turning out tonight and asking all the good questions. This feedback is really invaluable, and you are in very good hands. I've worked with all these folks at the Department of Public Works. They're all professionals, all excellent at their jobs. So you're in really good hands as I and Alderwoman Dmitrievich. So thanks again, everybody, and thank you, DPW team, for all you do and for the meeting tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Alderman. If there are no further questions, are we going to keep it going till 8 o'clock?
I I can stay on till 8 o'clock just in case anyone comes in last minute or with questions. If you want to move to the next slide, unless anyone needs to take down our contact information, we are just going to move it to our next slide for those who are tuning in late. We just want to make sure they can find this information on our website.
And I just want to mention that for the phone number, if you leave a voicemail, I will get it. But oftentimes working from home, this unprecedented times, and you're gonna always reach me with an email, and with a voicemail, I do get notifications through my email, and then I can check it.
Good point. Caleb says that they would like to thank us for hosting this meeting and have a good night. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Is there any more? No. And thank you, Megan, for putting together these slides.
Yeah, not a problem, Nick.
I will be right back.
Jacob, your question, will portions of the side roads connect to Howard be resurfaced? We do work on the side streets, depending, I don't know how far into the side streets. If Steve Owen is still on the line, he may be able to answer that question, or we can.
Yeah, I mean, typically we go at least around the radius of the curb. Going any further than that can lead us into the state not paying for things. So
Okay.
we'll keep it at about that.
So yes, we do go into the side streets to the radius of the curb for the most part. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, sure.
Jacob has another question about fire hydrants, if they will remain in the same locations as they are now.
Yeah, so the fire hydrants most likely will stay in the same location. It depends on what the final design is going to be. You know, I mean, if we move the curb out, obviously they're going to move. For the most part, they'll stay in the same location unless there's some sort of conflict that happens with them and utilities. But again, we're not that far in the design process yet to tell if that's going to happen or not.
Mm-hmm.
What was the question?
If fire hydrants were going to remain in the same location as they are now.
Yeah, that totally, like Steve was saying, it totally depends on the final cross section of the road. And if it widens or narrows, it could be a lot different.
Yeah. So to be determined. So I just want to mention for anyone who has entered this meeting late and hasn't heard this, the recording of this PowerPoint presentation will be posted on our website. And you can reach out to Nick Goodwin if you have any questions or concerns. There will be future public involvement meetings before construction, so you can always follow up at those meetings as well. Jacob Smith asked if there's a repair budget worked into the total cost, almost like a rainy day fund in case the estimate goes over. I suppose that would be a to be determined answer as well.
Well, no, as far as the money for this project that we specifically talked about, no, the answer is no. This is strictly for the design and construction of the road and the compensable utilities and all that stuff. And the traffic signals and different things that are eligible for the funding.
Okay.
But then to maintain the road after that is a different source.
Of funding.
Yes.
Okay. Jacob just wants to say thank you for your time and the education. Well, thank you for attending, Jacob.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night. So we have 10 minutes left of this meeting. We have two attendees still here. That's Jake Newborn and Kelly Bolter. Kelly is from the library. Scott, if you want to leave, I think you can. I don't know if we'll have any questions that come up that we may need your assistance, but I appreciate your help.
All right, sounds good. I still had it in the background as I'm checking through emails, but
Oh, okay.
thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Have a
Thanks.
good night.
If we need him that bad, I can yell down the hall. He's in the same floor as me. Everyone's left now?
We still have Jake Newborn
Okay.
the list. And I just realized my battery was at 5%, so I'm glad I noticed that because that would have been,
Just made it.
yeah. So I will get a copy of this recording probably by tonight or even early tomorrow. So I will send it to you and then post it on our website, just so you're aware.
It's okay. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Bye, Megan.
Bye, Steve. Have a good night. I think at 7:55 we could probably call it.
Yeah. Meeting adjourned. Thanks for doing so much to set this up and get the GoToMeetings software and the links and all that. So that was a big help.
Yeah, it's all good.
I thought it went pretty well.
I think the city as a whole is like still figuring out like what systems to use, like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, Zoom. So it's been a learning experience.
Oh yeah, this is GoToWebinar.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Well, I think
You can head out and I will end this recording and send you any emails that I get, and we'll follow up on questions that still need to be answered.
sounds good.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.